Hey, hi, hello. It's the LaSala show. I'm joined today by Mr. Daniele Bolelli.
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's always a pleasure. I was just listening to the episode with your mother.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's funny that you mentioned because right now, right before we started recording, I had to take a call and it was my mom just
oh,
called it.
okay. There you go. So did she ask to come on the podcast or did you ask her?
I mean, I don't even remember. It's one of those things that is like you throw around as hey, let's chat at some point. Oh yeah, we should do an episode, that kind of thing.
Right, right. Yeah. So every time I talk to my mom, it ends up being like a Joe Rogan 3 hour long conversation. So I always feel like it's a podcast. And
Yeah.
but yeah, it was awesome to hear. I didn't know she was a writer as well.
Yeah.
And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I guess.
Yeah, that's why to me is like writing is one of those things that I don't see it as a particular, like I don't see it as something special that I've done in my life, or even like my daughter is like a freaky good writer, and I'm like, but I'm not. It's funny because I should be impressed because poor girl, she still do something great and she's good at it, but I'm just like, whatever, I write, my dad wrote, my mom writes. It's like, of course you know how to write well. That's not even, but then she's a good singer and none of us can sing halfway good. That impresses me. That I'm just like, oh shit, you know how to do that on your, that's your thing, that's, whereas writing, even for me, I don't see, it's not my thing, it's, I kind of grew up around it. So
What take me through the process of writing a book because you have like 5 books out.
yeah,
Like how does it start? Like where like do you take notes and
yeah,
then
extensive notes. Like I'm big on outline, and not everybody. You have to figure out kind of what's your method. But for me, starts with an idea, of course. The idea, I start taking notes to see if there's enough stuff there. Like, and I take notes over weeks, months, or even years sometimes. I just, anytime something come to mind that's related to that, I jot it down. When I start having enough stuff that I see how it could work, how I could see a bunch of different chapters on it, or how I see if it's a fiction thing, how I see a full story, then I started dividing it up, like taking all these massive notes and ordering it around with what flows, what would the flow be, what comes first, what comes next, and so on and so forth. And when I have this skeleton set up, then it becomes easier to add things because I know exactly where I'm at in whether it's a story or whether it's nonfiction, but I know exactly what I'm trying to say. So I'm like, okay, I have point A, I have point C, I will need some kind of a connection there. So I need to develop something there. And I need to beef up the outline for point C because there's something, but not that much. And then I think more extensively, specifically about that topic, kind of thing.
right? So it's almost like just point A, point B, point C, and then filling in.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Yeah,
how
I'm
much of
on outline. I
not
find
af-
it very helpful.
not afraid? That's the
Yep.
one that I ordered that I wish would have gotten here on time. And I always order these books and then I procrastinate. That's one of my worst things is I have all these books that I want to read. And,
Right.
and but I really wanted to get to this one before I had you on. But how much of this one is based truly on yourself and is there any fiction to it?
No, no, that one is just all real stuff. It's I mean, it's not an autobiography in the literal sense of like I was born in and then, following my life or anything like that, but it's thematic, it's about one specific theme having to do with fear and how it shows up in three different ways. So there's the first part of the book is about things that I learned about fear from martial arts and competing and fighting and things like that. Section two is a bit the story of meeting my wife and things then that happened with her when she died of cancer. Section three is sort of the afterwards. Is okay, I'm in a really awful situation. both emotionally and economically and in every other way. And I do have a tiny little daughter and trying to figure out how to go about it. And in some way, those very things regarding fear show up in the way, or in this sense, that's the moment where there's more lack of fear that shows up in the way I dealt with stuff that helped me tremendously at a time when things weren't going so well.
So it was probably pretty cathartic for you to get all of that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I mean, it's always tricky when you touch on stuff that's traumatic to figure out how much is cathartic, which it certainly can be, and it can be therapeutic in some way. And of course, you are also going to dig into traumatic things, which could be good and could be bad.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost like therapy, right? It could be good, but then depending on who you are, how it's done, for some people, you dig up stuff that's too big too soon and it mess you up. So it's it's a delicate balance there, but yeah, overall, I would consider it cathartic.
I just I've always had a fear of death. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, once
Yeah.
I realized that religion kind of wasn't
Mm-hmm.
for me, I didn't
Yeah.
believe in heaven or hell or any of that. That's when I started to like freak out and be like, oh, when I die, that's it. It's just blackness.
Right.
But then I tried to like talk myself into, oh, well, if it's just blackness, then I won't even know that I'm dead. But then that freaked me out. So it's like constantly the spinning cycle of trying to wrap my head around what existence even is. And then
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you stay in the moment, like without freaking the fuck out?
I think I mean, yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's a lot of what Not Afraid is about. Is precisely about that, and in some way, in fact, that's where the part about martial arts. That's like, how does that have anything to do with anything? How does that have anything to do with fear of death? How does that have anything to do with dealing with horrendously hopeless situations and stuff like that? There's something interesting to me about martial art practice where one of the we all like people who train, we all like it because of the sense of empowerment it gives you, but the reality is that some of the best lessons you get are not the ones about empowerment. They are the ones about getting your ass kicked. And because it takes a special brand of toughness to be in a fight where you know you're gonna lose. The guy is just better. He has your number. There's nothing you can like. Realistically, you have a Hail Mary shot, which is probably not even a shot. You're just gonna get crushed. There's nothing to it. Even in the gym, like nobody likes to be in that situation. You just want to just tap and go home. It's like this sucks. I want to be out of here. And to choose to stay in it and to choose to fight on in what feels like an hopeless situation, that makes you tough. That builds a level of toughness that's not logical because, logic would tell you, get the hell out. What are you doing? This is
Right.
uncomfortable. This sucks. This doesn't feel good. Get out now. And you choose not to. That can, whereas the perfect armbar or some flying kick doesn't exactly translate to daily life, this stuff does because, life will kick your ass time and time again. You can be lucky or unlucky, but at the end of the day, will kick everybody's ass in one way or another. And so to have that extra, that ability to have been there, to know what it's like to be in a hopeless situation and still go forward, that's intense. That's intense. And, realistically, you do it in martial arts. That's a very mellow way compared to the way life kicks your ass. But still, it does develop a little bit of that muscle for it. And so for me, I found it useful. I find humor useful. I find even in the shittiest situations, sometimes that ability to be in the moment where you're like, yeah, there's no getting out of here. There's no good outcome here, but we're still here for the time being. So you know what I have power on? I don't have power over the ultimate outcome, but I have power over this very second. And this second, we're going to laugh. This second, we're going to have a good time. This second, we're going to make it good. And then maybe we have another second and another and another. And so you can steal these moments away from a gloom and doom situation. And again, there's a power in that as well, because that's pretty much the only power you have as a human being is the moment by moment thing, you know?
Yeah, conquering every single second as
Yep.
well
Yep.
as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Because
I can't do MMA. I first of all, I'm not strong enough. I'm 6'5", like 180,
right.
so I my thing is basketball,
Yeah,
right?
basketball is awesome.
But there are certain times when there's a guy that's like he's 6'5", but he's 230 pounds. And I'm
Right.
trying and everybody naturally says, hey, tall guy, go
Yeah,
guard this tall guy. And he's just backing me down and just putting in buckets,
of course.
at will. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
But it's just like the struggle of, trying to do my best and then trying to make the right decisions on the court and, making good passes and trying to play my best defense. And that moment, I'm not thinking about death. I'm not thinking about whatever else is going on in my life. It's just the task at hand is to be a good teammate and I want to stay on the court and I want to win. And then,
Right.
you get like an endorphin rush, from like just like a good pass or if you happen to hit a shot or whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and in that way I can kind of relate to the MMA thing, but I'm much more of a spectator, if anything, because I don't understand how. I mean, I watch, every Saturday night
Hmm.
if there's a good card on,
Sure.
and just they're struggling but it's all like almost mathematical to where they're
Mhm.
like, oh, I just need to get this leg over, and then I got him, and it's like, so I've become sort of like an analyst. Like me and my girl will watch, and I'll be like,
Mhm.
oh no, this guy, no, if he gets taken to the ground, it's over. So, who's your favorite UFC fighter right now?
Who do I like these days? It's weird. It's like I followed MMA since pretty much the very beginning, and I don't know. I mean, I think maybe I'll change. Maybe things have changed. I find it there are less people that I enjoy than once I did. And not technically. Technically, they're great, but like personality-wise, the whole game has become very Conor McGregorizing.
Yes, dude.
Talking non-stop, having to be an asshole to attract attention, that kind of stuff. So I guess, perfect exception to the rule would be a guy like Charles Oliveira,
Okay.
who's just a sweet, awesome guy, and he's tough as hell, and he's a great fighter. Is he the best there is? But it's not really. That's never really been what it's about to me. It's like you're a good fighter and you bring something awesome to the table as a personality. I like it. I'm into it. There's a friend of mine. She's gonna do her last fight. Ilimale McFarlane. She was the champion in Bellator for a while. I think she's gonna do a retirement fight in a few weeks, and she's a fantastic personality, and what she brought to the table was great. So I like those kind of like where there's somebody that I like as a human being, which
Right.
is not super often. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm looking for.
So Dustin Poirier is from my hometown
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
and by all accounts, great guy.
yeah.
Just
Right.
humble,
Hmm.
family man, and also he fights.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's
yeah.
the kind of person, just like what is it? Israel Asandra, is that?
Adesanya, yeah,
Yeah, he comes out with like a whole like marching band and dancers and everything. And
yeah.
that's fun for like children,
Sure.
but like it's kind of corny. And then, what, last week or 2 weeks ago, I forget, kind of got kind of got
Yeah,
beat
yeah,
up
it
a
was
little bit.
terrible the other week. It was, yeah, I don't know what's up. If he's just getting old, if the guy just figured out his game, if he was compromised in some way. But yeah, he looked awful. Yeah, and Adesanya, I mean, is a fantastic fighter, great, and just he always, I don't know, it feels almost intentional, but he's always coming across as a bit of a dick
Oh
with
yeah,
him
cocky.
stuff and just, and there's a cocky that's endearing, and then there's a cocky that's over the line that you're just like, you're just obnoxious.
Yeah, it's hard to root for.
Yeah.
Even with the talent, it's like, yeah, but kind of don't like you. I don't
I mean,
know.
I think a lot of these guys go for the if you want to see me lose, I've done my job because you're gonna watch. So, they figure if I can't be the George St. Pierre, the guy that everybody likes because he's such a nice guy kind of thing, then I'll just be a complete dick because then you're gonna want to see me lose and you're gonna buy the ticket anyway to see the guy who crushes me kind of
Right.
thing.
I'll be the heel.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how it works.
All right, so you live in a house with two women. I will call your daughter a woman because she sings like a grown ass
Yeah,
woman.
right.
And what is that dynamic like? Because your lady is a fighter as well.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
And your daughter seems like she could probably kick some ass.
yeah.
What is that dynamic like?
It's funny because we are all like both of them can be very tough, fierce people in their own way, in different ways, and they are also insanely sweet. And we are always we pretty much never get into a fight among us, like, because everybody's just really, really, really going out of their way to be nice to one another. Now, we always have our moments where, we all have moods, right? So there's a moment where you're in a shitty mood and you just want to take somebody's head off, and these people are right next to you. So it feels almost natural to just be like, "Ah," and just take it out on them. But everyone, like, we are all trying so damn hard to be to like to me is like strength is not strength unless you use it to spread kindness. Otherwise it's not strength, you're just a bully asshole. So to me, especially in situation like with loved ones, like the other day my lady was like, right, pre-period PC with the ward, and she was just telling me stuff how she was clearly mad at me for, and she knew there was no reason whatsoever, and that's fine. And I'm like, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. I'm sorry the ball hits you wrong. What can I do? And she's really just like, and if you put opposition in this kind of situations, then you are more of you start a fight. Whereas to me, it was like, hey man, I get it. You're feeling like shit, and you're edgy and you're nervous, and yeah, tell me what. So to me, it's like you build trust in not putting up a defense, in not being like I can say anything to my daughter or my lady and they will listen because they know it doesn't come from a place of me trying to be a dick to them.
Right.
And vice versa, if they have something to tell me, I'll take it to heart because I know it doesn't come from. They're not trying to score a point on me. Maybe they see something. Maybe they see something where I'm going wrong or where they could help me or where something. So I think it's an interesting combination of a bit of assertiveness, but also very very mellow and sweet with one another.
Yeah.
So
And that's a delicate balance
it
because
is. It is.
like when my girl comes home from work and she's complaining about certain things at her job or whatever, and oh,
Mhm.
this girl's being a bitch and my boss is incompetent, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then if I try to give her advice, that's a
Mhm.
no-no.
Yeah.
She just wants to vent,
Yeah.
and so that's what I've learned is just just take it in. And I'm still learning. I still
Yeah.
don't really know the right things to say because one thing will set her off. Like I'll be like, "Oh, well, you should do this," and she'll be like, "You don't get it," and it's just like,
One thing that I find useful in that regarding communication when you have something to say, but you know that it may not be taken easily, is to often pose it as a question. More like, hey, there's a problem that you have, and so it's my problem as well. I want to help. But of course, if I put myself as like, let me tell you how to do it, of course, the other
right,
person is going to be like, fuck you,
yeah,
what? So a lot of it is like, okay, there's a problem. We want to find a solution. Let's see if we can strategize together. And it's more like, what do you think about this? What do you think would happen if you try this, that, and the other? Or, okay, that doesn't work. What about if you do half of that? Could that help a little bit? And so the vibe becomes less, let me tell you how to handle the world and, kiss my ring and give props to the fact that through my superior intellect. And it become more like, hey, we are here trying to find a solution together. And I don't know what the solution is. I have ideas. Let's see if they work. And I'm not married to those plans. So does it seem like he promised something? Okay, maybe you can do it 10% of what I told you. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's try it out. Let's see. That way it doesn't come across as bossy, as
Or
arrogant.
mansplaining, as
Yeah,
they
but I
call it.
mean, even a woman doing that is the same shit, right?
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
likes to be told. So I find that useful. Like even with my daughter, to me, is like I never ever have no, you're not gonna do that, or yes, you should do that. It's more like think about it. Let's think about it together. What about this? What about? And I think it's because I'm not coming across with the vibe that I have something to sell, like I have a preconceived ideology or something that I'm trying to convince her that it's the right way, that it's just very much like, hey, we're figuring it out together. And I can be a good guide. I can help you with some ideas, maybe. But at the end of the day, you're the one who need to live them. You're the one who need to implement them. You're the one who need to see if they work. So I'm just here as a sounding board. I'm just here to throw in some little suggestion that you decide whether to implement and to which degree you think you can implement. And then if they don't work, we go back to the drawing board and figure
Right.
out how we can tweak the balance. That's a totally different conversation than telling somebody what to do.
What to do or what you would do. Like
Yeah,
this is what I would do if I
yeah,
was, like you always see that like in like viral videos of like people getting beat up, like, oh, this is what I would have done if I was in that situation. It's like,
right.
bitch, you weren't
Yeah,
there. You don't know
yeah,
what happened. Like,
right.
don't do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you have any guilty pleasures? Like I think of you as such like a intelligent, spiritual, just like it's almost like I'm speaking to God himself right now
Mhm.
with your and you're only 10 years older than me or 11, but I feel like you have gone through so much that you just have like this infinite knowledge, and to think that you have like some guilty pleasure would just it would be
Yeah, no,
amazing.
man. I'm a 14-year-old at heart. It's like the other day I was here and I was like played Assassin's Creed and drink
Yes, dude.
wine and doing no, I'm totally a 14-year-old that way. I just no, man. I mean, for real, like a lot of the stuff I like is that like I could totally relate to a 14-year-old boy in that regard because my
Right.
brain has evolved in some ways, but in others, really not. Some of the same thing I like when I was 14 are the same thing that I like right now. So I'm just yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of those. Like my priorities tend to be priorities that most 14-year-olds would
Yeah.
understand.
Jacking
So,
off and playing video games.
right? It's like that's the life. That's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so no, I don't think, and in that sense, to me, it's like I don't think that quote unquote intelligence or depth or is antithetical to any of this stuff. To me, it's like at the end of the day, we're here to enjoy life. We're here to make the best of it. And it's not that suddenly because you read a few books or you go through something that you start despising the same thing that was hilariously fun when you're a kid. Just fun is fun. The same way as if you play with a dog, you're having fun, and the dog is having a blast, and you're having a blast. You're on the same level there for that moment, right?
Right.
There's nothing else. Same thing. So yeah, I don't the way I look at myself in terms of age or or mental state, I'm not at one spot. I range. I go from being a demented 3-year-old to being 80 to being somewhere in the middle to they're all available options.
Right. Yeah, it's a good balance to have because I mean, if you want to wrap yourself up in trying to be the smartest person in the room or trying to gain all the knowledge, or you're gonna be tortured. Like
Yeah.
to be intelligent, quote unquote, is to be tortured because you're like I would rather be dumb
Yeah.
and happy than
Totally.
smart and miserable. You know,
Totally.
like
Totally.
like uh, I was saying about thinking about death all the time. I wonder how many people actually think about that. Like I
Yeah.
saw the Barbie movie,
Yeah.
which I didn't expect anything out of. I just
Mhm.
went because I thought it was, just gonna be a fun movie. And there's
Yep.
a moment in there where they're all dancing and everything. And she says, "Do any of y'all think about dying?" And then like the record scratches and
Right.
everybody's like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like she looks around and she's like, "Oh no, I'm dying to keep on dancing, like all right."
Right.
So I wonder like how many people we interact with on a day-to-day basis that even like that's in the back of their head.
Right. And I mean, the reality is that everybody's dealing with heavy stuff all the time. There's always some heavy stuff going on. So we all deal with a lot. That's why to me, I find a big difference between intelligence and wisdom. There are a bunch of people that you see them and they are clearly smart. They can put together good sentence. They are good speakers. They put things, but to me, it's like, intelligence I have zero interest in the sense that unless it turns into wisdom, and wisdom is something that you can relate to a 4-year-old, you know what I mean? An intelligent, let me tell you about this sophisticated argument, cannot talk to a 4-year-old, cannot talk to their grandma, cannot, is something else because they are stuck in this in one mode. Wisdom to me is also about the ability to speak many languages. We want to speak the nerd intelligent thing. Sure, we can do that. We want to go to a video game and wine. We'll do that. We want to go to, there's an ability to enjoy life and find something like you find the right language for the right situation. That to me is one aspect of wisdom.
Yeah, and being able to relate to certain people
Yeah.
who don't necessarily share your beliefs
Yep.
or
Yep.
haven't been through what you've been through and making it work.
Precisely. Absolutely.
So we only have about 5 minutes left before my Zoom upgrade runs out because I'm not getting that damn upgrade. But
Right.
last thing I want to end on is such a cheery topic, but the apocalypse, aliens, where do you see all this going? With all
I
this
mean,
new leaked footage of,
right.
that everyone's releasing.
I mean, the thing is, we are more or less constantly bombarded by stuff that's scary and that we have no power to affect whatsoever. So, as much as humanly possible, I try, while I try to be informed, I also try to let the flow of information not become overwhelming. So to me, it's like deal, and I say that a lot with my daughter when she feels like overwhelmed by stuff. It's like there's you ever watch that movie? There's an Al Pacino speech that's brilliant in that movie, Any Given Sunday. And
Oh, the
there's
football movie, yeah.
yeah, the football movie. And there's something that he says about the 6 inches in front of your face, how basically that's all that exists for at moment. And sometimes I find it useful when you're switching from like very large context and it feels too much. I don't know what to do about it. It's scary, it's weird, it's this, it's like, okay, go back to basic, take a deep breath. what can you affect right here, right now? What do you have power to have an impact on right here, right now? What you can touch, what's in your house. But the bigger it gets, of course, the more your power is diluted, because in your house, you can affect a lot of things. In your neighborhood, a little less. In your town, way less. In a nation, hardly anything. In the
Right.
world. So to me, it's like sometimes when stuff feels overwhelming or chaotic or confusing and you don't know what to make of it, is like bring it back to a place where you do have some agency, where you do have some power. And when something bigger gets into that area, deal with it. Until then, if you don't have good ideas for how to deal with it, don't.
Yeah. So it's like I could vacuum my rug right now, and that would keep me in the moment. And 1,000 miles away from here, something could be going on that I can't help.
Right.
But I
And
can vacuum this rug.
yeah. And there's something to be said. I'm not advocating, you should forget about any larger picture. But at the same time, remember the larger picture if you feel that there's a way for you to affect it. Otherwise, take in the info, you're educated about it, and move on if you don't feel that you have any power to do something about it. So, it's a choice, even that. I'm not saying only deal with the small scale stuff, but primarily deal with the small scale stuff because that's where you have more power, and see if you can have a plan or an idea or anything for larger scale, knowing that, of course, it's way harder to affect change on a larger scale than on a small scale.
So, but do you think that there are aliens and that they're monitoring us and they're like, what the fuck are these guys doing? We got to go check on them. Like, they have nuclear weapons and they have
Right.
assholes running all their countries.
Yeah. No idea. Not even close to having any idea about what's happening in that department.
Yeah. I think it would be sort of narcissistic to think that we are the only beings in this entire galaxy.
It's funny though, I always say aliens is like, yeah, you're exactly right. I agree with you on that. But every time you hear alien stories, they always have two eyes, a nose, a head. And it's like,
Right.
that looks surprisingly human-like.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, then there's the simulation theory that everything has already happened and we're just doing it over and over again, and like just all the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
That's again 6 inches in front of your head. Like,
Yep.
that's where you have to go back to.
Yep. That's where you can affect a lot more.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on again, man. I really appreciate it. Like, you are the fucking man. Go check out History on Fire. The Drunken Taoist. Go listen to Daniele talk to his mother. It's truly beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Thanks, man. Deeply appreciated.
All right, have a great rest of your day. And what, are you off of school today? What's the deal?
I mean, a lot of time I work at home. I go teach at school some of the time, but primarily I work from home. So yeah, today is gonna be a bunch of just sitting in front of the computer, stepping outside, lifting some weights, going back to doing computer stuff, and that's the gig.
Oh, see, you just reminded me. I'm gonna go get my kettlebell out.
Yep, just
Gotta
get a
do
few
it.
sets. Yeah,
Gotta do it.
Nice.
All right, my man. Have a blessed day. Great weekend.
Thanks so much. You too.
Cheers.
Have a good one.